Good morning. My name is Nina Hentz, and I'm worship associate this morning. Welcome to those of you who are here with us in person at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke, Virginia. We extend a special welcome if you are joining us for the first time. We also say welcome to those who are joining us on YouTube. Our minister is the Reverend Walter LaFleur, and our service this morning is called A Sacred Place. Please take a moment in this sacred place to turn your phone off. Check, I better do mine too, now that I think about it. If you have joys and concerns and you are watching from YouTube, please type them into the notes within the next 15 minutes, and we will be able to gather those before we get to that section of the service. I think it's in chat, notes, yeah. One of those functions, yeah. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you are filled with sadness, overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself, or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here.
Good morning. My name is Matt Livingston. I'm going to give you a short update on our generosity campaign. Last weekend was first day of spring. We kicked off that campaign. I was out of town in South Carolina, but I saw it on YouTube. I saw Walker in his fine tuxedo, and I just can't compete with that. But I'll talk to you a little bit about the campaign. And even though he's here in person this morning, we're going to start with a video message from our minister. So I'll step aside while we get that queued up.
I've been asked to say a few words from the minister's corner of the universe here, Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke. I've been here now a year and a half, thereabouts, and I'm still loving it. I'm really enjoying being here, and Yvette's enjoying being here. We've acclimated. It's amazing that I've been here a year and a half, and I'm still meeting people. Coming into this congregation during COVID has just been horrible. It's just not been fun. I'm a people person, and I want to meet people and engage with people and be in conversation with people. And it's just so hard to do when we're all locked up in our homes or tucked behind masks. So that's just been hard. But even given that, I've just thoroughly enjoyed my time here. I guess I should tell you that I think you folks have a wonderful congregation. It's just really a wonderful congregation. I have seen congregations, and this is on the good end of the totem pole, without a doubt. Nowhere near perfect, so there's room for growth and change, and it feels to me you're in process. You're in good spaces. This is a good congregation. It's a healthy congregation, and there's room for improvement.
We are a good congregation, a healthy congregation, but nowhere near perfect. And I would apply those sentiments to our pledging habits as well. I want to thank the 25 or so people that showed up through the month of February, where we had workshops on pledging and stewardship. We were able to share some of the information from previous campaigns and have an open dialogue about how we raise funds for this church. I'm going to share one piece of information from that workshop that's called a quartile analysis, and I'll just briefly describe that. You can imagine a pie. If you just imagine a pie graph, imagine each pledge is a slice of that pie, and you line those pledges up from highest to lowest, and then you divide that pie into quarters, and you say how many pledges are in each quarter of that pie. And when we do that for our congregation, we had 120 pledge units last year. We had 7 pledges that make up the first quartile. We had 12 pledges to make up the second quartile, 22 pledges in the third quartile, and 79 pledges in the fourth quartile. And when I look at that data, it tells me that we have amazing sustainers at this congregation. We have people that have the capacity to pledge, and they share their pledges openly and generously. But I suspect we have room to change and improve across that entire range of pledges. If we could even out those quartiles just a little bit, we'd be in a healthier situation, and we would not be relying on such few large pledges. We have an ambitious goal this year of $250,000 that we're trying to raise. And just to be clear, all that money comes from this congregation. There's no pipeline of UU money that comes from other places. It's you and me. It's all for one, one for all, I think is what Walter said last week. Yeah. That money comes to supporting the church. It supports the mission of the church. It supports our mission groups. It pays for our staff. It maintains and improves the building. We have a lot going on here. We opened our doors last summer. We've been having in-person services. We just restarted our religious education classes. So after 2 years of this pandemic, we're still here, right? That's good news. You can find more information about the pledge campaign on our website. You can donate through the website. That's the preferred way to do it, and fill out your pledge card on the website. We are asking, we're taking inspiration from the UUA that has a fair share giving guide, and that recommends, we're adapting that to recommend somewhere between 3 and 5% of your household income. We're looking as a standard pledge, depending on your income. So we're going to strive for 3 to 5. And if you're new to pledging or wondering what's the right amount for you, you can go to that website, look at the UUA Fair Share Guide, and maybe get some inspiration for yourself. Figure out what's the right pledge, and then make your pledge. As of this morning, we've had 9 pledges for a total of $32,000, so we're off to a good start on the first week of the campaign. Next Sunday, we'll have some pots and seeds available for people to take home plants if you've made a pledge, or you can keep them here and they'll be nurtured at the church. More on that next week. And then finally, as a special gift from the Generosity Campaign Committee, we will be having a pop-up coffee hour after church today. Be outside in the Memorial Garden. It'll be a little chilly. Supplies are limited. The conversation is not. So after church, come join us for real coffee, real people, real conversation. And I think it'll be the first coffee hour that we've had in about 2 years. So hope to see you out there. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
I want to thank Matt and Walker. You folks are doing a grand job. Now it's the turn for the rest of you to do a grand job. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. I ring the bell 7 times in honor of our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. And our covenant, words of our covenant. We commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communications as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world.
Spirit of life, come unto me. shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, split a piece of wood. I am there. You could extend that beautiful comment and say, open a banana. I am there. Put your shovel in the earth. I am there. Listen to the song of the robin. That's me. You don't have to believe that anyone is literally behind the song or in the banana or in the earth. You don't have to speak of God. You don't have to talk like a theologian. You only have to use your spiritual imagination to establish a world alive and mysterious and home to a presence impossible to describe, but impossible to deny. Words from A Religion of One's Own, a guide to creating personal spirituality in the secular world. Our chalice lighting words. Our chalice lighting words this morning connote sacred space, altar, church, chapel, enshrinement, holy place, hallowed space, sanctuary, temple, mausoleum, in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke.
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to bow but not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life.
Morning. My name is Jessie McEwen, and I am the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here. And I want you guys to play pretend with me really quick. Can you do that? Yeah, I see some people that are ready to pretend and some people that are like, I was not expecting that. So I want you to close your eyes if you're comfortable. You can stand up if you feel like it. You can wiggle your shoulders, wiggle your hips. You can get more comfortable in your chair. And I want you to picture yourself on a sandy beach on the Gulf Coast of Louisiana. Oh gosh, it's hot, isn't it? It's so hot out there. All I want to do is put my feet in that cold, cold water. So I'm gonna go, and yes, the Gulf of Mexico is cold this time of year. I grew up there too. Go step in that water, wiggle your toes, feel that sand between your toes. If you're wiggling your toes right now, think about how the cold water meets that scratchy, scratchy sand on your toes. Now turn around and look at the beach. Do you see those scrub trees there? They're little trees. They've been caught in the wind. They have strong roots that are keeping them there. Let's leave the water and hike up there and see what they look like. Reach out and touch that bark. It's a little scratchy too. Oh, and can you smell the seagrass and that salty, salty air? This smells a little fishy. Feel the heat of the sun. Here comes a breeze. Oh, it's so nice. It takes some of that sand off your ankles, dries out your toes so you can put your shoes back on. Now let's leave that beach and think about the song that we just heard my friend Martha sing. The woman who wrote that song, Carolyn McDade, grew up where you just visited. She's from Louisiana. The wind, the roots, the water, the sea, these vast, amazing things came from her memory and her experience of what makes things holy. And then she wrote that song and gave it to us as a gift. How cool is that? Well, this morning, folks that are kindergarten through 5th grade are going to join me to learn another one of her songs and a little bit more about Carolyn McDade. But if you ever need to feel the holy, you can go back and visit her beach. Sound good? And I'm headed out the door into the lobby, and we will meet there.
Brought my mini-me with me today. Today's reading is from Gil Rendell, The Spiritual Politeness of Healthy Congregations. It's kind of small. Moral behavior is not necessarily defined by the domain of law where people follow the rules because the rules are enforced. Living in the domain of law is necessary to civilized life because it provides order in those areas of living that need to be shared and where we need to accommodate all. However, simply following the laws that are imposed on all people is not necessarily moral. It is in the domain of obedience to the unenforceable, the realm of manners, that faith communities can claim a special place to practice behaviors that conform to and evidence their beliefs and values about what is moral. It is the area of a life in which we are required to believe in certain prescribed ways, but not because the behavior is required by law and a failure to comply will be punished. The domain of obedience to the unenforceable is the area of our lives in a faith community that results in beliefs and values that prescribe each behavior, that prescribe such behaviors. Simply speaking, this is the area of life in which we do certain things because we understand, according to our faith, that they are right to do. Moral and mannered behavior is the responsibility of the civilized person. And in the case of the congregation, moral and mannered behavior among its members is certainly the responsibility of a person of faith. And in quotes, the freedom that humans possess is not the freedom to do what we like, but the freedom to do what is right. It is here that congregations possess so many lessons of our faith, traditions that are meant to guide the behaviors of our members. The manners of faith are to be found in the covenants and promises to practice behaviors grounded in the teachings of the congregation.
In the book of Exodus, a story is told about God speaking to Moses. Moses was keeping his father-in-law's sheep. He had led the sheep to Horeb, the mountain of God. The Bible says, there the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was ablaze, yet was not consumed. When Moses took a closer look to see why the bush wasn't burning up, he heard his name being called. He said, "Here I am." Then he heard, Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. Sometimes, folks, we need to be told when we're standing on holy ground, sacred ground, because that which is sacred is not always obvious. Sometimes we need to be taught what is sacred or what is holy, because that which is highly important, that which is highly visible, is often defined contextually. What is holy or sacred to one faith community may not be so to another. Sometimes that which is sacred may not even be obviously religious. And often, therefore, it needs to be taught and learned. There's a song I've heard written by a UU. It was titled "A Sacred Place." It says, "A place is sacred because of the kindness shown and the love we bring, the fellowship we share, and the listening ear to show how much we care." Because the sacred is defined contextually, the words of that song exist within a larger context. The context is not the local gym or the teacher's room at school. That larger context is the Unitarian Universalist church, any Unitarian Universalist church. Any, because we all share a set of principles with all of the other UU congregations. I remember being in Barcelona. To this day, I carry an image in my head of a particular event that captured my attention. While walking down a street, I noticed a building that was set back further from the road than any of the adjacent buildings. As I passed, I noticed a bunch of shoes. There must have been 100 of them, lined neatly from the door going out to the street. I didn't count them, but there must have been 100. I'd never seen such a thing before. It was immediately obvious to me that on the other side of that door was a sacred place. I assumed Muslims had gathered for midday prayers. The vision was a powerful indicator of a boundary crossing. The owners had left their shoes behind in order to cross the boundary from the mundane, the secular, into a holy place. I wonder what the impact might be if all of us here today were required to remove our shoes before we entered this sacred space. I wonder, would it urge us to feel religious, sacred, spiritual, more attentive to how we engage each other as fellow travelers on a spiritual path? I wonder. I suspect each and every one of us has a place or a thing that is particularly important to us, something that evokes an emotional response in us. Maybe it's a place by the river, maybe a particular path through the woods. Maybe it's a hand-me-down from mom or dad. Maybe it's a ring or some particular piece of clothing. My guess is that most of us would not refer to such a place or thing as sacred even if we treated it as such. While we might well insist that others treat it with dignity and with respect, we're probably not likely to demand that they experience it as we do. So while something may be particularly important to us as individuals, we don't necessarily impose those beliefs on others. Although there are some things that we do impose on others, even if they don't rise to the stature of being sacred. There are some homes that I go into, that I have gone into, where I was asked to remove my shoes at the door, even while being warmly and fully welcomed. There is a behavior that was required in order to cross a certain boundary. And if one is to demonstrate proper manners, one should not need to be asked to remove your shoes the next time you want to cross that boundary. Societal manners dictate that we adhere to certain expectations or requirements if we are to be accepted into certain places. For example, wearing shirt and shoes into an eatery, or wearing a mask in order to come to church on Sunday morning. Yeah. Sometimes the expectations are made clear from the very beginning. Sometimes expectations are discovered once we abridge them. In the reading this morning, we heard holy manners, the spiritual politeness of healing congregations. The author tells us we can be driven by adherence to laws, which are externally dictated and enforced, or we can be driven by our own free will, taking nothing else into consideration as we make our choices. Or we can choose a third way, where we operate from the domain of obedience to the unenforceable. We were told that while obedience to the unenforceable may include moral duty, social responsibility, and proper behavior, it goes further than that, to include all cases of doing right, where there is no one but yourself to rely on for making such a decision. It sounds like a tall order given we're talking about the actions and behavior of people, human beings. We're talking about humans, after all, who have egos that serve to delineate self from other. We're talking about people who live in an American culture that places a high, perhaps a very high value, perhaps too high a value, on this thing we call individualism. We here, us, are dealing with non-traditional faith community that values an independent search for truth, an independent search for meaning. We're a faith community that exists within the cultural time and place where there seems no space between the domain of law and the domain of free choice. It seems to be, we seem to be in a place where there's a fierce battle to win. Often it appears at whatever cost. To win our way of life, our thinking, our expectations should be implemented. There seems no mid-ground to occupy, no encouragement to do what is right for the sake of doing what is right. Yet, we here, our faith community that is designed to stand apart from ardent beliefs, our faith is designed to honor the inherent worth of others and to view ourselves as part of an interconnected web, a web of all existence. And we, as a faith community, are largely populated by people who insist on making their own decisions, determining what to believe on their own. Interestingly, at the same time, we're populated by people who have freely chosen to enter into a covenantal relationship with others. A covenanted relationship promising mutual trust and respect. I'd like to have us now to remind ourselves of the covenant we created and the commitment we've made to fully live Unitarian Universalist principles and values in our daily lives. I'd like you to take a look at your order of service. Turn to the back of that order of service and note the portion that says covenant. And if you're masked, you're allowed and encouraged, and please do read that covenant. We commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world. How wonderful. How wonderful. Good words. Words that only matter if they're followed by behavior. Our UU principles and our covenant stand in stark contrast to the normative behavior we're likely to counter outside of these doors of ours. There's a fierceness and ugliness that is endemic in the society out there, it seems to me. There's a push, a press. There is a push to press one's beliefs, one's values, expectations, to press them onto others. And sometimes, perhaps increasingly, enforced by new laws. Our UU principles and values stand fully separate from those behaviors. Perhaps we should, dare I say, require people to remove their shoes before they enter this sacred space. Perhaps by the act of removing our shoes, we would be all reminded that we are now in a sacred space. Some would call a holy space. Perhaps we would remember we're standing on sacred ground, or in a moment, sitting on sacred ground. That we are each on a sacred journey of discovery. Short of that requirement, perhaps what we're left with as a faith community is to encourage and support obedience to the domain of the unenforceable. Perhaps we, as a faith community, should commit to reminding each other of our covenantal agreements, to our Unitarian Universalist principles, and our values. Remind each other that we're joined in the work of our mission, And our mission in this congregation is in service of reaching this congregation's vision, reason for existing. Perhaps we should all commit to being side by side in support of one another in the practice of what we heard earlier called holy manners, where we practice obedience to the unenforceable. Perhaps we would benefit. I urge us to remind one another that the practice of obedience to the unenforceable is the work of a faith community. The practice of obedience to the unenforceable is the work of a faith community. It's a spiritual practice that benefits the self and who we are as a people. Know and remember that our very presence makes a difference. Our presence affects the world around us. Know that you matter. Know that you matter. Practice obedience to the unenforceable. Take it into the world. And may your work and attitude be contagious. I bid you blessings in your quest. This church is a harbor of faith. We support it, we grow it, we insulate it, we benefit from it by our commitment of time and our commitment of our treasures. Spirit alone cannot sustain this place. Therefore, an offering will now be taken to help support the mission and the work of this faith community.
This is another Carolyn McDade song, which I found upstairs as I was going through all the music. And I almost threw it out, but I'm glad I didn't. And it's called Song of Community. We'll weave a love that green shore as spring, then deepens in summer to the fall autumn brings, resting still in winter to spiral again. Together, my friends, we'll weave on, a love that heals, friends, that bends, friend, that rising and turning like the mountain to rain, or frost in the spring, or darkness that turns with the dawn. It's by turning, 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 my friend, by turning that love moves on. We'll weave a love with roots growing deep and sap pushing branches to the wake from their sleep. Buried leaves, burnt amber, with morning's full sweep. Together, my friends, we'll weave on. We'll weave on a love that heals, friends, that bends, friend, that rising and turning then yields, friend, like the mountains to rain, or frost in the spring, or darkness that turns with the dawn. It's by turning, 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 my friend, by turning that love moves on.
It's good that you are here. We're glad that you're here. Take a moment and breathe in this community of faith. We thank you for your efforts and your finances to help support the mission of this church. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Michael Smith. I am a proxy for a member of the Caring Committee, and I'm happy to be here this morning. One of the missions of the Caring Committee is to provide a forum for sharing your concerns and joys so that we as a community of faith can support one another as we move forward. If you have a cause or a concern, you can contact one of the, a concern or joy, you can contact a member of the Caring Committee, or you can contact the chairman of the Caring Committee, Sally Garber. She'd be happy to hear from you. We have a couple of joys this morning. This one particularly is wonderful. Francis Livingston was accepted to the Roanoke Valley Governor's School for Science and Technology. Would you like to take a bow? Her parents, excuse me, and grandparents are very proud of her. And I think we as a congregation should be very proud of her too. That's a wonderful accomplishment. Also, someone that most of you may not know, a little thing called Cletus Wallace Smith, and his handler, to be named later, graduated yesterday from Dog Obedience School beginners class. Cletus is well behaved. Linda, well, but I love her anyway.
Talk about community.
Yeah. Then as the Caring Committee, we'd like to remind you to remember the people of Ukraine who are suffering. I mean, really suffering. So thank you so much. May we have a little prayer? Spirit of life, we thank you for the joy that Frances brings to us and to her family. we congratulate her and thank her so much for being part of this community. We also would like to remind you that you are wherever we are, that you provide us a basis for providing purpose, meaning, and joy in our life. And now, Reverend LaFleur and I will light the candles.
And Reverend LaFleur would like an opportunity to say a prayer as well. With gratitude for being alive, for our great fortune to be where we are at this moment, among this community of faith, we give thanks, for we know it could be otherwise. We know there are those who slept in the streets last night, who've lost their health, those who have lost their homes, even loved ones. May they be well. May they be held in grace. We know, Great Spirit of the universe, we know there are places in this world where this very moment people are living precarious lives on the edge, not knowing what's around the next corner, knowing that in any given moment they may lose more than their material belongings. There are those in this very moment, knowing their lives have been irreparably damaged, not knowing where they will find respite and a sense of security. Lover of loving, hold them dear and give us the wisdom to know just how fortunate we are as a people, as a community. We give thanks.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul.
Love it even more. We have several announcements this morning. I'm going to start with the website update announcements. A few people have expressed interest in being part of the website content management team. Others are welcome too. Please contact Heather Mason. I saw Gary here. Heather's not here today. Stand by for a meeting in the near future. The UUCR website is emerging. Please check in often for updated content. And if you're part of a group that needs to update their content or one who would like to be added, please reach out to Heather. If you are looking for board meetings or a church directory, they're now available under the business section of the website, which is password protected. For security reasons, we won't be sending that password out publicly, but you can reach out to our office admin or Heather Mason for the password. We need volunteers to be land stewards. We're having a grounds cleanup on Wednesday, March the 30th. Please bring your spade or rake if you have one and join in at 8:30 a.m. Hopefully you won't need a snow shovel. We will continue with picking up trash, piling up tree debris, stripping ivy off the trees, and clearing some of the underbrush. Bring gloves, trimmers, carts, branch trimmers, pruning shears, and similar equipment. A chainsaw with an operator would be most useful. No children, please, for safety reasons. Please contact Bill Hackworth with any questions. The Racial Justice Team is forming an 8th Principal Task Force. If you're interested, there will be an interest meeting on Wednesday, March 30th at 7 p.m. Please. Okay, Tuesday, March 29th at 7 p.m. Okay. Please contact Teresa Poole with any questions. There will be no choir practice on Wednesday, March 30th. Practice will resume as normal on Wednesday, April the 6th. We're still collecting cans for Easter Sunday's can hunt. You can drop them in the bin underneath the back stairs. And our church office administrator, Samantha, will be out of the office tomorrow, Monday, March 28th, but she'll be back on Tuesday, March 29th. And don't forget, middle and high schoolers meet at 12:30 today for the Epic Quest Restoring the Land. Matt?
Well, after starting the service, asking you all to pledge, I thought it was only fair to share why I'm making a pledge this year. So I'll tell you briefly about that. I've been coming to this church for 20 years now. The first time I came was the summer of 2002 with my wife, Lori. Before that, I'd grown up in a UU family, attending churches in Pennsylvania and New York. One of the gifts of that upbringing was that it cultivated an appreciation of community. It gave me a space to be myself, which I hope is translated into me being accepting of other people for who they are. I believe people will support the church if they find it meaningful to their lives. So I'm going to share 3 examples just from the past year of things that have brought value to me from this church and the reason why I'm supporting it with my pledge. The first is something that happened at our board meeting retreat. It's funny that Reverend Walter, I think, mentioned a little bit about this last week. In the evening, after we had finished eating one day, we had finished cleaning up. We were sitting outside on the screened-in porch at Mark Nevin's house on Smith Mountain Lake. Some of us had instruments. We were singing, played some music, sang some songs. Things got quiet. I think Erica and Jean and Catherine started reciting poetry. Remember, this is during the pandemic when people weren't used to spending a lot of time with each other. So that act of coming together and sharing gifts with each other speaks so much to the sense of the community that I find here over and over through the years. The second thing I want to share is about my listening circle. My listening circle consists of me and 6 women, most of who are grandmothers. I refer to it as my wise women's circle when I put it on my calendar. Early on, we had a conversation about spirituality, and it was very moving to hear everyone talk about their faith and their prayer practices. I have not been a person who has prayed in a meaningful way, at least with any sense of regularity. But since then, I've been on somewhat of a spiritual journey. I've developed my own spiritual practice, my own prayer practice. And receiving the gift of this listening circle has created room for me to wonder, to open my mind, and to test out new things. And the third thing is what happened a few weeks ago. My daughter Frances and Beatrice received their Girl Scout faith pin. They played music with Heidi and Maya Thompson here. And watching them play in front of all of you, in front of such a supporting environment, was such a wonderful moment. And I'm so thankful for this congregation to give them that experience. So this congregation, this church, this faith is important to me. It continues to shape my life and the life of my family. It also given me the gift of sharing, connecting, and being inspired by so many of you. It's a place that celebrates my children, gives them the gift of community that's rich with creativity, support, and space to be themselves. So that's why I'm pledging, and that's why it's so important to me to be part of this UU tradition. Thank you.
Our closing music today was maybe going to be brought to you by the kids, but I don't see them, so it'll be brought to you by me. But this is the song that they are learning right now, and you will know it. And it's another Carolyn McDade song, and I just looked, and it's almost 50 years old. And even though you can't, at this point, sing along, you can certainly sway, and, you know, you can get out your cell phones or whatever. Let's see. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
We hope that you've had an opportunity to practice obedience to the unenforceable today. Take it into the world with you in peace. Go in peace.